Welcome back. You are listening to the Mariam Mukonda Show on Slam Media. The holidays are often referred to as the most wonderful time of the year. Surviving your first holiday without a loved one, however, is a difficulty that seems unimaginable to get through. Holiday traditions, which once brought us much cheer, suddenly intensify our pain when we experience the gaping hole of loss. And with the coronavirus and us having lost many people, that does not make things any easier. And also, I mean, not having to attend their funerals because of COVID restrictions, etc. Joining me on the line is Nazia Saoloojie, a life coach and a counselor, to talk about surviving your first holiday without a loved one and to give us some tips, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, Nazia.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah for having me on your show again.
Alhamdulillah, it's always a pleasure to have you. Firstly, what does grief look like?
So, grief, it means different things to different people. You would have somebody grieving over a loved one, for example, which is completely different to somebody who would be grieving over a lost job or, so grief presents itself differently with different people, depending on the circumstances and the extent of the grief. This year has been a year of great loss for many, many people. People have lost jobs. People have lost loved ones. People have lost out on so much of opportunities that the grief presents itself differently with everyone at this point.
Mm-hmm. How important is it to acknowledge the impact that grief is having on your life? I know sometimes we just when it happens, when we are in the process of grief, you don't really get through the grieving process, and you just dismiss it, and like what does that do to you?
So if you're going to suppress your grief, and emotions have a way of coming back in a more aggressive form or shape, and it affects every kind of area in our lives. Maybe not now, maybe not next year, but if this emotion is not acknowledged, it will definitely present itself at some point of your life. Some people even, experience total breakdowns long after they've experienced something traumatic, or they grieved and they never accepted the grief or allowed the grief or the process of grief to take place. And later on in life, they experience certain emotional, issues, or they were failing to have healthy, positive relationships. And the essence or the core of it was actually not having dealt with the grief of the loss of a relationship, loved one, or opportunity.
What coping mechanisms should we adopt in order to get through the holidays and other important days without our loved ones?
So when it comes to the holidays, I think that a support system is very important because you cannot isolate yourself completely. I think that there should be a time to be alone, and there should be a time to allow people to support you, even if it means that they just sit there while you cry or sit there in silence. Just the mere presence of a support system helps a lot. Also, don't place too many expectations on yourself in terms of going out. You don't have to meet every single expectation with functions. If you don't want to socialize, you should give yourself the space not to, go out. Give yourself the permission to let the grief come in and sit with you and ask yourself, what is it about the sadness that is trying to teach me? Whether you cope by speaking or crying or whatever it is, but make sure that you allow the grief to work itself out. A lot of people think, just stop crying. Have you ever heard people say, stop crying now? You wouldn't like it, or she wouldn't like it. If she was here, she would want you to be happy. And this is particularly the grief of a loved one. But the thing is, if it is felt in depth and the person needs to cry, let them do it. So that's one of the coping mechanisms. And also, families need to be there with the basic necessities, make sure that they're eating, make sure that they have, adequate of medication that they might need, and also reach out to professionals because there are also support groups that can assist. Remember, not everybody is equipped to deal with it mentally or emotionally on their own. They require more support than others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that we always tend to tell people, don't worry, it's going to be okay. Just get over it. And if a person is grieving, you should not be so insensitive and tell them to just get over it. Let them grieve as long as they need to, because we all grieve differently. And if we don't grieve now, when are we going to grieve? And like you said, that it will come back to you. It will come back to haunt you because you were supposed to get through that process. You don't just get over it. And speaking about a therapist, when should you see a therapist?
So when you see, Miriam, that it's affecting obviously all aspects of your life. You fail to get out of bed. You have no motivation. You're only focusing on the loss or the grief, and it's dominating your work. It's dominating your ability to be productive or to have other relationships. Also affecting you physically in the form of no appetite or no listlessness for life and self. It has a very unhealthy impact. And you'll notice that people, that's why it's important that even if you reach out to someone once a day, to say, okay, if you want to be left alone, but at least once a day, check in with us, that you are okay. Or somebody takes it upon them just to go in and do a 10-minute check-in to see, is this person physically okay? Emotionally, how are they doing? So you can monitor their progress. And I think we need to have an open mind about it because people grieve differently. So it's going to present itself differently. Other people go into autopilot. They don't think about the death or the loss. They just do what needs to be done. And then later on, they have a complete meltdown. Are they driving, for example? Or they it just hits them out of nowhere. So make sure that daily check-in by relatives takes turns, and then report to each other on family groups, for example. That gives the people space to breathe, to grieve, because it's quite a daunting thing to go through the first holiday because there are traditions, there are things that you did last year, this time. And, we always go back to last year, this time, he or she was doing this. Last year, this time, we were making plans for that, So allow them to talk and remember the person, because by keeping the memory alive, it also promotes healing for people who have experienced loss. And if you can, keep their tradition up, because it hurts, but it helps to carry their memory or their legacy on. Just heals a different part of you.
Mm-hmm. And what about rest? How important is it to make time to rest? I mean, to rest your body, to rest your mind, because sometimes you can get carried away and be grieving so much that you lose yourself in that process.
Oh, absolutely. It's so important for you because, it's only when you are quiet that your mind can fully accept and process what's happening. A lot of us have a coping mechanism of keeping busy and keeping distracted so that we don't focus on the actual loss. And that's where we make the mistake. It is important to rest because your body is like a shock absorber. Whatever happens, it absorbs the emotion, it absorbs it, and you think, no, I'm fine, But meanwhile, you will see it manifest when you can't get out of bed, or you see it when you get headaches, when you get body pains. Your body is sending you a message that it is time to rest because I need to process what has just happened, because we are very much psychologically and physically connected. The mind and the body works together. So if you suppress something emotionally, make no mistake that physically it will present itself in the form of a headache, or it will form, in the form of body pains, or you would see just general loss of energy for situations because your body does not have the energy to respond. It's saying, pay attention to what's happening spiritually and mentally, and then I will have the energy to keep going.
Mm-hmm. All right, Nazia, I know that your time is limited, but please share your contact details with our listeners.
No problem. My contact details are 082 779 5287, and I have a Facebook page called Lifetime Wellness. You can go ahead and check that out and make contact with me. And please remember that you're not alone. Even if it's just an ear to listen or a support group, these things help.
Definitely. Nazia, shukran so much for your time and for sharing that important information with us. Have a wonderful day. Assalamu alaikum.
Barakallah wa alaikum assalam.
That was Nazia Saoloojie, life coach and a counselor, talking about surviving your first holiday with a loved one. Some of us have lost loved ones during this time, and it hasn't been an easy time to get through. I know this for a fact because I had my stepfather who was very sick, and he was in hospital during this season, during this time, this festive season, and he passed away on the 2nd of December. I mean, the 2nd of January. So it was like just a day after New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve, we got a call from the hospital saying that, well, he's very sick. You have to start praying. And on New Year's Day, he was still not well. And yeah, he passed away on the 2nd of. So, it's during times like that, it's festive. And when people always want to have fun and relax, and now you can't because you start thinking about what happened then, how things would have been. But alhamdulillah, this is something that we all have to experience. Death is something that we all have to experience. And like Allah does say in the Quran, every soul shall taste death. So yeah, may Allah make it easy for all of us. And if you'd like to contact Nazia, her number is 082 779 5287. Do stay with us. We will be right back.
This is Salam Media, and you are tuned into